Welcome to the Creative Career Center podcast series. I'm Brian Young, content curator for Entrepreneur's Creative Career Center. In this episode, we'll be interviewing Sara Taylor, one of the winners of our Creative Ad Open Call. Very nice to meet you, Sara, and welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Would you take a minute to tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of you being a creator or entrepreneur?
Sure. I actually started really recently, just before the contest, actually. I made my first piece in November, and I just stumbled upon the contest on Instagram, and I was like, sure, I'll go for it. I'm actually really new to creating art for the purpose of selling or the idea of distributing my art to other people to enjoy.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm super happy that you said you found the contest through Instagram because we pushed out a lot of content on Instagram and are super proud of our campaign and love the work that you created and submitted to this contest as well. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I'd like to just kind of ask the first initial question about you as an entrepreneur, an artist, and in your career, and what is the greatest influence on your art?
With my art, the greatest influence has been the style of taking the concept of simplicity and then adding hints of a nostalgic feel from pop culture from the 80s and 90s, sort of. I've been working with lots of flashy colors and grid patterns, creating new worlds with the landscapes, but with these hints of nostalgic identities throughout.
It's apparent that you use the grid patterns and the color choices. And that was actually my next question is what helps you make your color choices in your art?
So when I choose my colors, I always get my sister who is going to school for formal art. She always is like, you're not really following traditional color theory when you're making your pieces. I really just go with the flow. And I feel like when I'm choosing my colors, I choose them based off of what the emotion that I want the landscape to be, whether for it to be comforting or actually like to be in your face and screaming at you. It's like based off of my mood, really. However I'm feeling in the day, I'm like, oh, I want these colors. And then I just put them in.
That's great. No, I feel like art is very much influenced by mood or feeling or what's going on around you in the world. And I think that translates really well in your pieces as well. And I know you said that your sister is in school for formal art training, but as a student for you, as well as an entrepreneur, what advice would you give to other students pursuing a career in the arts?
For me, right now, I'm attending school for new media at the University of Maine, and it sort of bridges art and technology. I think my best advice is to keep doing what actually inspires you, because there will be a lot of people that tell you that your art doesn't follow the rules or that your art isn't really art. For me, it's really, I'm emotionally connected to my pieces, and I know that there's people out there that will feel that same connection, and there has been people that feel that connection. It just takes time and patience, and you can't let people stop you. I mean, it's important to take into consideration the things that you'll learn from school and stuff, but I think the exploration part and just being yourself really helps the pieces come together.
That's great. I think art obviously is a form of self-expression, and I think that that's a very important aspect for artists and entrepreneurs to consider. Would you say that the best advice that you've received is to put your full emotion into art, or what would you say is the best advice you've ever received as an artist and an entrepreneur?
It was my mother that really, after I made the first piece, the original, which is one of the ones that I submitted for the contest, she said that it's something that I can build upon and not to let other people tell me how I should make it, and just make it the ways that I see my world shaping and coming together with these little landscapes. To really make it me and not try to cater to other people per se.
That's great. That's some sound advice. I love it. The next question that I have is what is it that you want your art to say?
I think that I want my art to show that it's possible for anybody to be creative, because I never used to think that I could be creative myself, and I've always been intimidated by great art, by amazing people who create these amazing, complex, intricate pieces, and I've never really been able to do that. But if I can take my simplicity and my personality and make it into my pieces, I feel like I want the message to be that something so simple as these things, really like a gateway and an inspiration for other artists to see that even something as simple as this can actually be appealing. I really feel like that would help other artists and inspire them.
That's great. What does it mean to you to be an entrepreneur?
Well, when I originally had come across the contest, I had no idea. I was like, oh, this is a really cool concept. I went to the site and I checked it out and I made the account and the profile to build it. So, my own interpretation of being an entrepreneur is to be able to give your art to the world and show them that art is a consumable and that it is a thing that is valid and it is worth being presented. It has value. And that being an entrepreneur yourself, that you're the person that provides that content in whatever form it is, whether it's video or sculpting or pictures or anything, that art is in many forms and you can be an entrepreneur for art just like you could for any consumer good.
Absolutely. That's a great perspective, and it's true. So, as an entrepreneur yourself, because you certainly are, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of the career itself? And then the most rewarding?
I think for me at the moment, the most challenging thing is breaking through that barrier and showing people that what you're creating is tangible and worth it. Because it's really rewarding once I do get that through to people. I am a beginner entrepreneur. I really haven't made too much sales of my prints, but I think reaching people through social media or through Facebook or whatever, that's really challenging, especially when all of these platforms are very like strict on their rules and that it's very hard to actually put your things on there without them getting taken down. One example is I tried to upload one of my pieces on Facebook. The piece was titled just Vapor, but they have restrictions against advertising for vaping or smoking e cigarettes. And so they banned my print because it had the word vapor in it, even though it wasn't related to that at all.
Interesting. It can be kind of challenging to find proper venues to promote your work and to share your work. You also mentioned one of the challenges is breaking through the barrier. When you consider the campaign's tagline, the creative ad call campaign tagline of entrepreneurs start here, where do you suggest creatives begin their career and where did you start your own?
I started my own with just creating a piece for the fun of it, which was the original. I was bored one day sitting in my dorm and I was like, well, I'll just work with this tool that we've been learning how to do stuff with in class and then I'll try to make something myself out of it. And then it worked and then I was like, oh, this is a thing that I could keep going. It's a theme that I sort of established on my own. And I think really it's important to start with searching for things like the entrepreneur ad campaign casting call because that felt like a really huge breakthrough for me. When I got that email that said, congratulations, you're one of our winners, I was shocked. I was just a beginner. I didn't think that it had that much value yet. And I really appreciate, obviously, the opportunity for this because it's really important, I think, to receive validation and to seek it out.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. What inspires you the most to create?
I think what inspires me the most to create is the fact that I have always had a passion for creating, but ever since I was young, I never felt like it had value because growing up, I've always been good at math and science as well as creating. And in high school, they pushed the math and the science very hard because obviously there's a lot of value to being able to do those things, but I felt like I was stunted with my creativity. And to the point where I actually ended up going to college at first for computer engineering. And when I got here, I realized I have to be a creator. I have to do it because it drives me. It's why I keep going because my mind is always bursting with new ideas, whether if it's I'm writing a story or writing a song or making art. I just can't contain it. I always have to feel like I'm creating up some sort of new fairy tale land or a fantasy or something.
Amazing. I love that. And it sounds like creativity is a very important aspect of your life. Is that right?
Yeah, that's very much true.
I love it. And it also sounds like you got into the field of creating the arts out of the desire, the need, the passion burning inside to create something. Is that also right?
Yes, that's very true. When I was in computer engineering, it's not like I was incapable of doing it. I was very capable, but I felt like something was clearly missing.
That's right. Time is so precious. And I know you mentioned previously that you had just gotten into being an entrepreneur, but what is one of the greatest lessons that you've learned so far as an entrepreneur?
I think one of the greatest lessons that I've learned so far is to not devalue yourself. Because my sister is involved in art, I always growing up thought that she was better than me. And she has also created wonderful work. She's absolutely amazing. But I always doubted my abilities. And good thing that I learned is that I shouldn't interpret her art as better than mine or my art as better as hers, because our styles are so different and what we make is so different, and that they both have value. Even though mine is less technically advanced as hers, it still has whimsy.
I see that a lot in the industry or in the world as well. Different artists, different creators often look for a benchmark to compare their work to. And I always say, don't compare your work to somebody else's work. Your work is your work. Do you believe that there are enough resources for assisting creatives in their careers?
Honestly, at my college itself, we've discussed this a lot lately because in new media, a lot of students coming to it, like myself, assume that it revolves around content creation, but we actually don't have resources like accessible cameras. We don't have accessible equipment that we can use. There's not even a printer that can print high quality art prints. I still don't think that there's enough, especially on the student end. And then when you get into online resources, there are a lot of great websites out there for sharing and presenting art, but there's a lot of boundaries and restrictions in terms of censorship. And I mean, that's not a thing that I struggle with my art because it's just landscapes, but there's censorship. There's a lot of people that have passionate projects not always like accepted. And so I think that resources that are like Entrepreneur is fantastic. And I think that there needs to be more of it and more acceptance, especially on large social media platforms.
I couldn't agree more that the larger, wider known, and widely used social media platforms should embrace art a little bit more and understand that, art is subjective and art is meant to make people think and push boundaries. Sarah, this was absolutely so great. Thank you so much for joining the Creative Career Center podcast and for sharing your art with us. And we look forward to seeing a ton more of your art in the future.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate this. This has been such a journey. It's been so much fun.
I'm so glad to have you. Thank you so much. And we'll talk again really soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.